Hey everyone, and welcome to Chef AJ Live. I'm your host, Chef AJ, and this is where I introduce you to amazing people like you who are doing great things in the world that I think you should know about. Well, this is the fourth Thursday of the month, which means it's time for Vegan Conversations with Robert Cheeke, and he chooses the most interesting guests to interview. And today it's somebody I actually know. I met him on the cruise. I haven't seen him for years. I can't wait to hear what he's up to and connect, but let's introduce the host of Vegan Conversations with Robert Cheeke, none other than Robert Cheeke. I think this is your first show since you've been back from the cruise, right, Robert?
Well, we did that special one with Jeff Palmer with the Vegan Bodybuilding World Championships a couple of weeks ago, which I appreciate. But as far as Vegan Conversations with Robert Cheeke, yes, we're back in action, making it happen the first time since the Vegan Cruise, where all three of us hung out. And who's that other third person? None other than vegan athlete and entrepreneur Roger Smith. Roger, welcome to the show.
Pleasure is mine, Robert. Good to see you, buddy. Long time.
Yeah, good to see you too. It's been a little while, but I've often thought that you have some of the biggest and best arms in the whole vegan fitness industry, the best biceps around, and you have been vegan for more than 2 decades. So it's not like you built your body by eating animal protein. So, right. Roger, why don't you talk to us about your vegan journey? Because you started more than 2 decades ago. Why don't you tell us the beginning, the origin story, and then we'll take it from there and learn about your advocacy, activism, what you eat, how you train, and where you get your protein.
Well, thank you, Jeff, AJ, and Robert for having me on the show. I'm just so excited about it because let me start over like my journey. So I'm originally from Panama. A lot of people don't know that, but I am. So being Latino, having that background, we come from a very strict dietary choices, right? To put it in those terms, right? It's because a lot of that had to do with culture. So culture plays like a big role. And part of the culture, you have like the way you dance, so you have like a typical dance, right? But you also have the food that you eat plays a role on part of that culture because they all gather in the family and they all eat. So the reason why I bring that up is because I never had any type of knowledge or any type of education where how to eat properly, right? Basically, this is what you eat, this is what you're gonna eat, and you go from there. So my journey started like Robert said, 20 years ago. As a matter of fact, it was 2002, September, I will become turning 21 years old as a vegan. And my journey started in, basically it was me having that curiosity. I have a friend that actually, he's a vegan, long-time vegan. So if I'm 20 plus years, he probably around 23, 24 years in the being a vegan. But back then they didn't even call it vegan. They even call it like strict vegetarian. I think it was the term that they used. So vegetarianism was pretty famous back in those terms. So I started it with him by him being part of our group of friends and then not eating animal product. But I was like, why you don't consume animal product? Like, why you don't eat pizza? Everybody's eating pizza, basically. Everybody's eating burgers and you're not eating this type of food. So like, what's going on with you? Like, you have a problem? There's something wrong with you? And then he finally told me one day, like, did you really want to know why I don't eat this type of food? You have to read this book. It's called, he referred me to The Miraculous Diet. That was a book that he gave me to read, but I read the book, but there was a lot of terms that didn't resonate with me at that point, right? Because there was a lot of technical terms, and I was in my early 20s, so I wasn't really paying too much attention to health at that point in my life. So my curiosity kind of sparked me to continue researching and kind of knowing more about the lifestyle. And that led me to go online. And when I went online, I saw a PETA video. So animal welfare was the main reason why I actually turned vegan. And from that point on, it's just, I didn't even change. So it's just been like that. So basically my journey started with a PETA video. And it's funny because I asked a lot of my friends that started around that same time, and they all tell me the same thing. Like, oh, I got inspired by a video that I saw about animal slaughter and something like that. I don't know, maybe it's a very graphical way of getting started, but that's what we had back then. And the internet was just coming out. So I'm kind of spelling my age at that point, but it was just coming out. So that was basically the main reason why I turned into veganism. And then from there, I started researching more and more. Yeah.
Well, Roger, that's another thing we share in common. Yeah. I started obviously more than 20 years ago from a PETA video as well. It was factory farming, and very specifically for me, animal testing. When I watch those animal testing videos of animals with their, arms and legs tied down and things put in their eyes, and, forced animal testing upon them, I thought, man, I don't want to contribute to that. And I grew up on a farm. I was around farmed animals and other animals. And I just thought those are really cool practices. And man, what if I could, build my body without having to contribute to animal suffering? What would that look like? So let me ask you about that. I mean, you're obviously, you're an athlete, you're a vegan bodybuilder, you've competed. You and I actually competed at the same time, the same competition in Texas. Some years ago, about a decade ago, actually. So you and I go way back. We got a lot of mutual friends and a lot of history together. So how did you get into the fitness industry? Did fitness come first, or veganism come first, or they kind of go together? And how did you build such a muscular physique?
Oh, I love telling the story because a lot has to do with you. But before we even go there, let me go back. So I'm always been an athlete, right? So I always play sports. So I had to give it up to my dad because he always helped me do something. So I play soccer, I play basketball, I play baseball, volleyball, you name it, every single sport out there, skateboarding, I did it. Like I was a very active kid on my younger age. So during my time in high school, I gravitated to basketball, which is another thing you and I have in common. So I fall in love with the sport of basketball. So I played that sport for all through my high school year. But I suffered a really bad injury in my ACL, grabbing a rebound, and it kind of quote unquote ended my career because back then we didn't really have that much of the knowledge of as far as like science and technology and how to rehab those kind of injury. So basically they just snapped my leg back in position and said, you keep playing. So that kind of injured me for the rest of my life. But anyway, so since I'm always been into sport, I decided to, I decided to get to a point that what is going to happen with my life from that perspective, from the fitness perspective that I can do. And one of the things that I decided to do was like, well, I need to find something that also give me that passion, that gravitates me to stay myself active, because even though now I'm playing the sport that I like, I still want to be able to continue doing those activities. And at that point in my life, I was starting to go to the gym, but I used to go to the gym just kind of like, just to play around with the weight, just to say that I was going to the gym, right? I just go and play with weight because I never had a quote unquote problem with weight. So I like a weight problem, right? I always being slender in the way of my body is. So I never saw like going to a gym for a person that needed to get put muscle or get stronger or any of those things. So since I wasn't really into going to the gym for that particular reasons, I started thinking, well, what do I do? And then well, at that point in my life, I was in a relationship, and the person that I was dating at that time, she needed to, she wanted a workout. She wanted a personal trainer. She wanted a workout. So we both went to the gym, and the guy was like, no, you also need to go to the gym. You definitely need to work out. Look at you. You come to the gym, like I'm serving you. It was this guy that trains in the gym. So anyway, so that kind of created my motivation. But the biggest motivation was because when I was going through gyms to kind of get information about working out, and we're talking about this was way back. Everybody, when I keep telling them like, hey, I'm vegan and I'm not thinking about changing that, they will used to say, well, no, you're not going to build any muscle. That was like, how are you going to tell me I cannot build muscle? The answer should be, how are we going to do it? So think about it from a different perspective. Change the narrative. Don't tell me that I cannot do it. Like there has to be a way. So I went online. I started researching vegan bodybuilding, veganbodybuildingandfitness.com. Hey, there you go. So I found the community. So I found your site. And as you know, and you have shared this for thousands of people, that community, it was like the kickstart for our career in this fitness world. And then you was kind of one of the main mentors of it. That's the reason why, I need to meet this guy because he and a bunch of the friends are doing this. But of course, unfortunately, for me, they're not close to where I am. So they're somewhere in the world, but these communities keeping it close. So your website kind of like was the kind of catapult for me to, okay, I'm going to get into the fitness. But if I even fast forward a little bit more to that story, the first time we met was in Portland, right? Remember, in the Vet Fest.
Yeah.
And then at that Vet Fest, I was getting so many feedback from different folks, like, hey man, you need to compete, you need to compete, you need to compete. Like, I mean, I'm just lifting weight at this point of my life just to be on a healthier standpoint, just to kind of put myself to do something. But now I'm getting a lot of feedback, like, you need to compete. And then I was like, you know what? If people are saying that I need to compete, I'm just gonna try, because I also think that it will be a good way for use it as an activism. And then that's how my fitness bodybuilding career kind of gets started. But you know, a lot of that motivation comes from you, Robert.
Well, I appreciate that, Roger. And you know what? You do have one of those physiques where you see you and you're like, man, yeah, this guy's got to be on stage or in magazines or representing veganism, you know, on a larger scale, because, you know, I was a champion bodybuilder, but you are way bigger and stronger than me. I don't know, you know, people may not be able to see through the camera right now, but you are quite a bit bigger. You know, you're tall, you're muscular, and you have those towering muscles, like the arms, the shoulders, the back, that it's like, man, that's an opportunity for advocacy and activism. And I still strongly believe in that we, you know, we wear veganism on our sleeve, like literally, you know, we wear it on the back of our shirt, on the front of our shirt, we wear it on our chest, we wear it on our arm sleeve, you know, we carry that with us, because it's like, man, how does that guy get that big without eating animals? And he's been doing it for, you know, whether it was 10 years ago, you'd been doing it for a decade, or now doing it for more than 2 decades and maintained it and sustained it. So I want to ask you, what do you say when people ask you, you know, I mean, how do you build muscle without eating animals? How do you do it just on plants? Like, what's your response to that?
Well, so for my response to that is there's a bigger why to that, right? So why do I do it is because being a vegan allows me to do, it's something greater than just me. It's not just about me. It's about others. It's about the animals, about life. It's about a combination of things. So I have a bigger why. So when I go work out, for example, to me, it's more than just, oh, I'm doing it for myself. It's there's a greater purpose behind it. Basically, that's what I'm trying to explain here. So what I tell people is that is you really understand the science per se behind building a physique, you're gonna see that it's not necessarily required. You don't need any animal product. It's just the way we've been brainwashed. Basically, the way we've been brought up is just thinking that that's the only source, or that's the main source, or that's the ultimate source of building muscle. Your book says all this stuff about, like, just gotta read all the information. The information is out there. So people have been brainwashed or are being brought up this way to thinking that this is the way it is to eat, and then there's no other way. And then for people that are, let's say, vegetarians or vegans, that they think that they cannot accomplish their goal because of the vegan diet, or because of the vegan lifestyle, or the plant-based lifestyle. So it's like, it's the opposite, right? So one, they've been saying, no, you can't get that. And the other one say, yeah, you're gonna get it because you have to eat this. And we always tell this thing, right? Why filter your food? Just go straight to the source, right? So we always talk about that. So for all those folks out there, there's no need for animal product for anything, absolutely. Everything that you want, you can get it vegan, right? And then if you have the right combination of eating the necessary food, meals, and necessary for your body to grow, rest, drink water, and do the proper exercise, you're going to accomplish this goal. Now, how fast do you want to do it? That's a different topic, but you can accomplish this goal, right? So they even added another extra layer to my story is, oh, you're too old. Now it's not that I'm vegan, Robert. Now it's like I'm too old because I'm over 40. So, well, you're too old. No, yeah, you can't build muscle now because you're too old. So I'm like, okay, so now before it was because I was vegan. Okay, so now we got rid of that myth. Now it's the age thing, it's another thing. So it's always something. But if you imagine if I start listening to every single thing out there that people are saying at me for whatever reason, I will never gonna accomplish anything in life. So we want to be able to stay focused. You'll be able to eat the right proper meal. Look for help. I will advise that you look for help. You have somebody that knows about it, especially if it's a vegan, because you want to find somebody that helps you. I'm hoping that you find somebody that have the same lifestyle, similar lifestyle you have, because they understand your pain, frustration, they understand the struggle, they understand the positive things. So they can guide you better if you have someone around you that can definitely provide you with some incentive when you are working out and doing what you need to do.
Roger, isn't it interesting, your observation you made that people are always trying to look for a reason to discredit what you're doing? Oh, it's,
Right.
you know, you can't possibly really be vegan. Maybe you're actually eating animals quietly in the
Right.
background, or you must be using anabolic drugs or steroids,
Right.
or clearly you're not natural, or you know what, you just can't do this at your age, and
Right.
that's the barrier. There's this strong projection that a lot of people have that because I can't do something, I don't want to believe that you can do it.
Exactly.
Even if you're showing me that you can do it, I'm going to discredit you, because if I'm eating animals and I can't do it, there's no way you can do it without eating animals. And I like the way you said it a few minutes ago when you said you were just learning, you were kind of getting into the gym, and people said, oh no, you can't do this on a plant-based diet. And you said, how are we going to do it? Right? You asked the question. No, don't tell me I can't do it. Say, how are we going to do it? Understand that amino acids are amino acids, and they come from the original source from plants. Right? This is where you're going to get the original sources of the building blocks of protein. You're going to get the original source of vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, fiber, nitric oxide, water-rich foods, high nutrients in low-calorie form. So you're not going to carry a lot of extra, very likely extra
fat. Yeah.
Those nutrients are going to go to use. They're going to go to build your body. Like, I like that you asked that. How are we going to do it? Don't tell me I can't do it. Let's just talk about how we're going to do it. So let's talk about that for a minute, Roger. So what are your, people always want to know about not only what you eat, but they want to know about protein. It's the most popular word in the nutrition world, this macronutrient, protein. So what are your favorite plant-based protein sources, and how do those fit into your meals? So if you could talk about your favorite sources, but also how you work those into your meal plans.
Yeah, that's a good question, because it gets asked a lot. And I honestly, I tell my clients and tell myself that I won't say not necessarily not to worry about protein, but you should not make a big quote unquote deal about protein, because if you're eating a whole food plant-based diet, it's so rich, it's so nutrient dense, it's so rich in all the different amino acids and vitamins and minerals that you're going to be getting. So you're going to be getting all the nutrients that you need. So some of my favorite sources of proteins, we got, I even though I eat beans more as a carbohydrate, but they also have protein. Same way with vegetables have protein as well. So it's hard for me to miss it, right? But I can add to that. So I can add some like tofu. We add lentils into it also. We might do also some seitan every now and then. So this is some of the main sources of protein, but I keep my food very balanced. I focus on eating my combination. I eat all my macronutrients, right? I eat my source of protein. I got my carbohydrate, and I have my fat. So for healthy fat, I like to eat nuts and some seeds, and also avocado. That's one of my favorites. And so for carbohydrates, I usually stick into sweet potatoes, sometimes brown rice in that sense. And there's also protein in rice as well. So and for protein, I could do soy. I could do some lentils. I could do some beans. So just a variety of food, amount of food, as long as I eat that amount of calories, and breaking those down in my in carbohydrates, proteins, and fats, I'm able to reach my goal. And then everybody can do that, but you just have to know how much is that amount of food that you need to eat to establish to get to that goal. And we have spoken about this many times. So me personally, if I tell you like on a regular day how my day looks like, so I might start my day with like oatmeal. I drink oatmeal with my water. This is just about a bit of competition, just to boil a little bit of the extra calories in there. But I might use some flax milk per se, and then maybe I might sprinkle a little bit of hemp seed into it. But I also like to do a lot of fruits, and so I eat blueberries, all the berries. All the berries are my favorite. Are really good for you. the berries, bananas, of course, as well. So I do a lot of fruits, and then the rest of my meals, my 4, 5, 7 meals, in the remaining of the day are going to be very similar, right? I might have either fruits on one side, because I like the sweet. I might have a sweet tooth, so I like dates, for example, because I love sweets, right? So I might just eat dates by itself as a snack. And then my meals will be basically either sweet potato, I might have maybe tofu on one side, and just salad. And I just go crazy on salad. My favorites are spinach, broccoli, asparagus, Brussels sprout, you name it. So like I don't really limit myself. I don't limit myself. I try to keep it as much colorful as possible and simple, because I'm a guy, so I like to just go quickly to make my meal and go on my business. I do wraps as well too, and just use a whole wheat wrap and make it that way. But I try to keep my foods very simple, and then because at that point, especially when I'm competing, food for me is more as a fuel, not a luxury. So I avoid going out and having a lot of oily food. So I basically focus more on eating at home, and I control what I eat and how much I'm eating.
Yeah, Roger, you just said two things that I think are simple but very profound.
Yeah.
One, you said a little bit ago, and I want everyone listening to remember this. You said that if you reach your calorie intake needs, that you'll reach your protein intake needs, that you don't obsess about protein, because if you get enough calories by default, because of the nature of macronutrients and the embodiment of food and where the amino acids come from and all of that, if you reach your calorie needs, you'll reach your protein needs. You said that. I think that's very profound. And for people just to make sure that is a take-home message, because that question keeps coming up about protein. But we have to look at total calorie intake, which is how we gain weight, which is how we lose weight, which is how we maintain skeletal muscle mass. It is a reflection of whether we're in a calorie surplus, a calorie deficit, and the nature and the source of those calories, which I appreciate you sharing the types of foods that you eat. And the other thing you said was profound. It just slipped my mind, so I'm gonna have to remember it. I'll have to come back to it. It was the last thing that you said, so I'll come back to that when I think of it. But I appreciate you sharing not only your diet and why you eat the foods that you eat, but that's what makes up a diverse calorie intake that supplies the things like the micro and macronutrients that we need to consume. If I think of that other topic, I will let you know. But in the meantime, there's something really important here. I get this a lot when I'm traveling, when I'm touring, when I'm speaking. Marilyn had a question. She's worried. She's got 4 teenage boys, and they like to build their body. They like to lift weights. They want to get bigger and stronger, much like you and I, like we had aspirations of getting bigger and stronger. But they worry that they've got to consume animals, because that's what we learned, that milk does a body good, that beef is what's for dinner. They read the muscle magazines, perhaps. They see it on social media, all these influencers who are omnivores and all of that. And so she's asking, how do I convince them or convey to them that they can get all the protein they need from plants? Because, and this is important, I'm concerned about their future health because of the relationship between animal protein and heart disease and other common degenerative diseases. What would you say to Marilyn and her about her 4 teenage boys who are currently on a path of building muscle eating animals?
Yeah, that's a really good question, Marilyn. And first thing, congratulations for actually being a very upfront mother, and then trying to help your kids to have a longevity, because that's what we want to accomplish. And the reason why I said it is because a good friend of ours, Dirk Treesize, told me one time, and he told me one time that I get a lot of messages from different people that we know, so I might quote them every now and then because that's stuff that's stuck in my mind, and I think that can help you guys in some way, somehow. So Derek Treesize one time told me, I'm gonna help you to build a longevity in the body using bodybuilding instead of just getting a quick body. So what he meant to say, and I'm not quoting him in the way exactly, but this is kind of what he told me. He basically was saying, like, use the sport of bodybuilding to use it as a fitness goal for you, as a fitness strategy for you, and not just to, oh, I want to go on stage, have a quick body, and win a trophy and get out. No, use it as to maintain yourself active, as a sport that allows you to have a longevity in life, to strong your bones, your muscles, and other different things. So, and have a better health, you maintain a nice waist, and maintain a nice physique. So basically, that's what I'm using the sport for, which is a good message. So going back to Marilyn's questions is, I think, Marilyn, you have to start with providing them with information. And one of my ways that I think that I can help them because of their age is to look for vegan influencers that they can actually associate with, or they can see themselves, or they can reflect with. Like try to find these athletes that you think that they have some good qualities, and then those, because Robert have a huge list on any of his book that you can just go through the list to find which of these athletes that has the personality, the qualifications, whatever your requirement are. Find those athletes and have them follow them, because if these people are doing the right thing, then it's easier for them to follow the message from the others than follow your message. Because usually when we are not on that age, teenagers, we don't want to listen to our parents, but we'll listen to outsiders. And then the same thing outsiders are telling me is the same thing my parents might be telling you. But we don't, at that age, we don't associate that, because we just rebel, right? We just do, oh, we know what we're doing, we know what we're doing. So one of my suggestions is try to find like a role model. And I don't necessarily I like to use that term, but trying to find an influencer, or just to use a term, as somebody that they can mentor them in that sense, and they can see that, hey, this guy is doing the right thing, or this girl is doing the right thing without consuming animal product. I think that would be a good starting point. I think another advice that I will give them is I don't watch documentaries and things that they can. Things that are more practical, because if you sit down and give them a lecture, they're just going to bore and not going to do it. So it has to be a way that it captures their attention. So maybe like a documentary on TV, or maybe on YouTube, or watch a video, something that is related to the topic, and then create a conversation. Don't try to like go hard on them about it. Just hey, what do you guys think about that? Why you don't try for a period of time? Hey, let's do what did you try for? I don't know, 30 days, 60 days to see how it goes, to see how you feel. Let me see how you feel by doing it. Because once they start making those small changes and then trying it, then they might continue. They might continue doing it, or at least they tried it for that period of time, and then eventually at some point they'll change their mind. But the thing is, like, they need to have a figure or something that they can follow and say, okay, it's possible. I had, Robert's community and all the other friends that we have. That's how I got inspired. I got inspired because I saw others that was doing it, and they were doing it successfully. I'm like, oh, it is possible. Yeah, okay. Instead of me following this guy saying, no, you can't do it. No, I'm looking for the guys that know how to do it. Okay, let me go talk to them. It's like if you wanna learn how to fix a car, you don't talk to a doctor about it. You go talk to a mechanic, right? And then if you want to talk about building muscle as a plant-based diet, you don't go talk to a carnivore, because he doesn't know any better. He's going to tell you it's not possible, because the only thing he or she knows is how to do it with their eating. But we know how to do it with our lifestyle. We know how to do it. So we got the secret, which the secret is nothing secret. There's nothing secret about it. So we know how to do it. So have them talk to someone that knows about it and is doing it in a successful way. That way they can get inspired, and then hopefully that helps them make that transition. Hopefully that helps.
Yeah, thanks, Roger. I think that's great advice. You got to find role models. You got to see people that you can try to mimic their actions, mimic their meal plans, follow from their example, look to them for guidance, advice, or as simply as a role model, as someone who has already accomplished what you're trying to accomplish. And I think that's great advice. So vegan influencers, vegan athletes, vegan experts, you're right. When you're trying to learn something new, you go to someone who's already done it. You don't go to someone who doesn't have experience in that area, or else they are going to lead you astray, or they're going to say it's just not possible. And as you and I know, and many others know, that it certainly is possible. And not only is it possible, you can do exceptionally well. We know many colleagues who got their start back in the early vegan bodybuilding website, like Tori Washington, and
Yeah.
you mentioned Derek Treesize, and
Yeah.
Nima Delgado, Natalie Matthews, and
Right.
so many others who came up through the ranks and now are either professional vegan bodybuilders or have elite status or champions in numerous organizations and all of that. And that's where you can find a coach, a mentor, or even simply, like you said, just look online, even on social media, and find someone who's doing what you want to achieve, and just kind of pay attention to what they're doing and learn from them. There are also tons of authors and chefs and personal trainers and coaches and fitness enthusiasts in the vegan world that you can look to for guidance too.
Absolutely. Yeah. One time I asked you, because I had a Robert in my podcast, and well, I asked him a question the other day, like where he thinks the future of veganism is heading to, and he had a really good answer. He said, I think it's interesting because I asked you that question maybe like 2 years ago. And then this is what's happening now. So you literally like prophesied. You basically, I asked you like, where do you see the future of veganism going? And you say, I think more athletes are going to be doing plant-based, and they're going to be the ones that are going to inspire the next generation. Well, now, I mean, how many NBA players do we have now that are plant-based? I mean, and in all the different sports. So basically what you told me 2 years ago is like what's happening right now. So going back to Maryland's, whatever is your kids' sport or they want to do, they want to build muscle. There's a lot of athletes, famous, non-famous, influencers, or whatever. Just find one, follow them, and they'll put you. A lot of them are happy to just share their experience. They're happy. They're happy to share it.
Yeah, it is great, Roger, that there's so many more plant-based athletes now in professional sports, in Olympic sports, winning world championships, winning world titles. Setting world records, or just simply showing that you can do it in the NBA and the WNBA and the NFL and these professional leagues. And of course, bodybuilders and powerlifters are doing exceptionally well in some of the biggest, strongest sports that are often associated with eating as many animals as possible. And now here are these people who are just eating plants and winning powerlifting competitions, setting weightlifting records, winning bodybuilding competitions, around the globe. So people are out there doing it. So you're right. Go find them. Let's switch gears and talk about, let's continue to talk about the nutrition for a little bit, a little bit more nuanced. Cynthia wanted to know about vitamin B12 and what plant-based foods have it, or if you got a supplement with it. And while we're on that, Roger, let's talk about other supplements too, just because protein and supplements, when I have like, weightlifters, bodybuilders, big muscle men or women on the show, these are the questions that come up. So what do you have to say about vitamin B12 and supplementation in general? Is it necessary? Where do you get it from? Those types of things.
So when it comes to B12, this has been a topic for so many years because it's two sides, right? So one side say, well, yeah, you don't need B12. I won't say, well, you don't need B12, you don't need to supplement it, vitamin food or whatnot. Other says that you do, you not. So it depends on what size you are. So I personally feel like if I'm eating food that has B12, then I'm taking B12. So for example, nutritional yeast, or the ones that I get, has B12 on it. So if I'm using Nooch in my food, so I'm consuming the B12 that comes into so the fortified flakes, like they call it. So it comes in my food. So I'm taking B12. So at that point, I don't even thinking about supplementing it. So because it's in there. So I know there was for a long time, it's always been the concept of like, well, vegans are deficiency in B12. And you can have a B12 deficiency without even being vegan, because I know omnivores that they take B12 and they're not even vegan, right? So that's not a vegan thing, for example. This is a personal thing. It's a nutrition thing, whatever, how you want to categorize it. So if the person have a deficiency in B12, regardless of your lifestyle, then yeah, you have to take care of that, right? Now, if they say vegans deficiency in B12 because of the whole cell being in the animal and the food that they eat and all that different things, we mean or not, I don't want to get into all that. Everybody knows where the origination of the B12 comes from and not. If you want to supplement B12, take your supplement and then be happy with it and then continue doing what you're doing. I personally prefer to eat food instead of supplement food. Supplements for me is a supplement, is to add on to what are you doing. So I'm a segue right there into a supplement because I kind of pair both of them together. So if I can find any food that has B12, I'd rather consume that than have a supplement. But if, let's say, if I'm in the worst case scenario that, oh my God, there's no other alternative, I need to up my B12 intake for some reason, and then supplement will be the quickest bet. Yeah, I might definitely, of course, I'll take a vegan B12 to put it in those terms. I don't really have to explain that, but so I'll just say it. But for me, it's all about eating as much food as I can eat. So my whole thing is like, if I can eat, the more whole food I can eat, the better. So if I break it at 80-20 or 90-10, however I want to break it, but the more whole food that I can consume, the more actual food, this actual nutrient sources, then I'm happy. So I think that's a great balance for me. And then going now to supplement. So I'm not an anti-supplement type of person. So I'm not here to tell you guys, don't take supplement, don't take protein shake, don't take this, right? But I rather you consume your food more than you take supplement. So for example, I there's a product, I'm not gonna plug the product here, but there's a product now. It's a product that is high in protein, have no carb and no fat. So when I saw that product, I'm like, wow, this product is a food. It's a I'm gonna give up. It's a soy product, right? It's a soy-free product actually. So that's the name of the brand. So it's a soy-free product, high in protein, no carb, no fat, for example. So for someone that's saying, well, I need to up my protein intake. Yeah, now you don't need to even have a protein shake because now you got something that you can cook and you can eat, right? And then you have that actual meal instead of having to go and, let's say, take a supplement. Now, if you take supplement, well, make sure that if you take supplement, look for brands that are more on the natural side, like you can read the ingredient, you understand what you're consuming. And even though you can actually make your own protein powder with oats, you can just put it in the blender and you can add a couple things, just a couple of recipes online. I can show you guys a couple of recipes online that you can actually make your own protein powder. It says you want to make protein powder. So that's where I am with supplements. I think it is, you can never replace eating food and working out. That's one thing that I'm going to tell you guys, never. So you still have to put the work, whatever that work implies. You still have to eat. You still have to have your calorie surplus, calorie. You have to be, you still have to do the due diligence in that sense. Supplements is just to add on, basically. So it shouldn't be the staple. If you're just getting started, I wouldn't even recommend thinking about supplement. Not even. Focus on getting your food right, your form right, your rest right. So focus on the basic stuff. And then if you get to a level that you might will start thinking about supplement. That's just my advice to you guys. Because when I started, it wasn't like, oh, I didn't go on to Robert like, hey, what's the best supplement that we can take? No, so you ask the question like, well, what a workout? How do I fix this? How can I gain this? You start working the basic, and then you can start adding things while you start learning. It's the same thing like when you start learning about veganism or start learning about eating your food. You start with the basic stuff. Okay, how can I replace what I'm eating instead of thinking about, oh, what is the ultimate food for the maximum health? I mean, it's like you'll take different steps. Let's take different steps. So that's my advice with supplement. I'm saying I'm saying that if you're going to take supplement, try to do as most natural as possible. Read the ingredients, try to make it from reputable brands out there. I would advise anyone that's starting, even your level is high or level is medium, depending on where you are in your working out, try to stay as more whole food as possible and then stay away from a lot of those chemicals. And then if you're talking about B12, then for me, in the specific B12, the same thing, I will put in the same category of supplement. Is you can get your B12 from other sources of food, get it from there, and then make sure you're getting enough. Because I asked a doctor one time about this, and they said you have to have a certain amount of B12 per person, and then per day, per sample. So you make sure you're consuming that amount. If you can get it on food, you can do it through food, but it's not, then you can take it through supplements. So that's my take on that. What about you, Robert? What's your point of view on this?
Yeah, I think also it's important to get blood work done to find out what you might be high or low in, for example. I mean, when I got tested fairly recently,
Yeah.
my B12 was off the chart on the high end, right? And so I haven't even supplemented with it in a while
Look at
because
that.
I was on the high end, like I was on the highest end of B12 levels, and maybe that's just me. Everybody is different.
Yeah.
Obviously, I was supplementing with B12, but even not all that often, to be honest. I was just, I would just supplement with it every now and then I haven't done so in months because I was on such a high end. It didn't seem like it was a priority because, like you said, you can get it from food, and the absorption is what matters most. And so when it comes to supplements, I have this exact same perspective as you, Roger. So I don't need to repeat everything, but the idea, I look at it the same way, that it's designed to supplement a nutrition plan that should already be the foundation of your overall health and food intake. I thought of an analogy while you were talking about that. You were talking about how, come on, you got to just start with the basics. I mean, eat the basics, eat the macronutrients, make sure your calorie needs are met. Eat mostly whole foods. If you're going to supplement with natural sources as much as you can, and all that kind of stuff. It's very much like I started thinking about going to the gym. If someone's new to going to the gym, you don't need all the wrist straps and the gloves and the special equipment and the chalk and all this. No. You just got to get the reps in. You got to put the work in, do the basics, the presses, the pulls, the compound multi-joint movements, the leg exercises, free weights, machines, that kind of stuff, before you get into all the nuanced stuff that is for people who are much more advanced. And so will you see supplementation on a relatively large scale in the bodybuilding industry? Sure, absolutely, because these are very nuanced things where the minutia matters as far as manipulating body fat intake and how this supplement interacts with this other supplement to give you this really low body fat and muscle definition and this view of conditioning and all this kind of stuff, muscle symmetry and balance and all that. But that's for people who are really advanced in that area. For most of us, we just need to eat healthy foods. I mean, Roger, some of this stuff is going to alarm you. 80% of Americans eat fast food once a week. 37% of Americans eat fast food every single day of their lives. These are official polls, some done, I've cited them in some of my recent work. That this is just the nature of it. Most of us are not eating healthy whole foods as the foundation. We're eating a calorie surplus beyond what we're burning off through our basal metabolic rate and through exercise. This is adding to weight gain across the board. Something like 73.6% of Americans are overweight, 40 something percent, I can't remember exactly, 47% are clinically obese, that kind of thing. That comes from a foundation of diet that is not anchored in whole foods. And we know that. And it's not just animal foods, it's soda and it's oils and it's all that stuff. But when do we eat those things, Roger? We eat them when we're going to go eat animals. We drink soda when we're going to go to a burger place. We're consuming all this extra oil because it's on our burger, on our pizza. It's in our tacos. It's in the food that we're consuming where animals are consumed the most. So even though some of these things are not necessarily coming from animals, like the sugars and the oils and the salt and all that stuff, the way it's consumed, the package in which we intake it is from fast food restaurants, family diners, frozen entrees, and food that is largely animal protein based. So we can just simply avoid that. And then honestly, I think, Roger, the need for supplementation decreases when the nutrient intake goes up. You know this, I think, about me. I haven't used sports supplements in more than 10 years. And I'm still, like you, in my 40s and at times in some of the best shape of my life and some of the strongest I've ever been in my life without any supplements except for B12 at various times throughout the year. So I think we're on the same page there. And I think Jody had a question about what do you look for in supplements and all that. I think you already answered that. When it comes to protein shakes, you talked about looking for ingredients you understand as clean as possible. Look for whole food sources of these protein supplements, or even just increased protein sources.
Yeah. Yeah, just make your own protein powder. If you want to make a protein powder, just you can make your own oats, beans. You blend those up and flavor it, looks like a powder, and then and then that's it. You can use date sugar. I mean, there's so many ways you can do it. So I mean, if you really want to do it that way, you even save a little bit more money, and in the same time, it will be a lot healthier because you know what you're consuming. So
yeah, and Roger, we have a plastic crisis around the world right now,
wow.
and many protein powders come in plastic containers. I know some are in biodegradable bags, but only a few of the hardcore vegan brands are. In general, protein powders tend to come in these plastic containers, and yes, some might be recyclable, but many of them end up in landfills and in the ocean, and causing all kinds of problems with this plastic crisis. So if we can reduce that consumerism and excess waste by just having some extra nuts or nut butters, or have a little bit extra lentils, or have a 3-bean chili, or put some almond butter on your apple slices, or have a peanut butter sandwich, or have some tofu with your stir fry, or add tempeh with your vegetables or your noodle dish. It's that simple. So let's talk about training just for a moment here.
Yeah.
We had a question here. Where did it go?
I wanted to say one thing about supplement before we go into training. That sometimes supplements also, they create a placebo effect, meaning like you take the supplement and then it makes you think that you're getting stronger, or gaining something out of it. It's just that effect. It's like people take pre-workout or post-workout. I'm like, oh, I'm ready to work out. So, it gives you that feeling, and they might have some caffeine in it that is causing that. But it's like people think that if you don't take that, then you're not going to be able to perform. And I actually did this my own self. I tested this, and I never shared this with anyone before, so I'll share it with you guys. I went, I think I did like a whole month, and I was taking, I don't know, some supplement. Let's say it was a pre-workout. And I was like, okay, let me see if I take these, of course, of a vegan brand. I was taking a pre-workout, for example. And I'm like, let me go take this out and let me go work out to see how it feels. And then so I'll use it for let's say for a whole month, so I can have enough data. And then the next following month, I went with no supplement. Guess what? There was no different. It was like the same. It was the same reaction. Like, I won't say it was worse, right? But I would say that I didn't see no difference. Like, even taking supplement or not taking supplement, I was able to perform at a higher level. What I found out is, like, if I rest, if I have a good night's sleep, if I have a good rest, I can perform in the gym if I recover better. That's the reason why you want to eat good quality meals, because if you recover better, then you can work out stronger. You don't need to have the post or pre-workout, all the different things. So that's just my personal opinion.
Yeah, I agree, Roger. There's so much of the mental aspect of whether you're going to make forward progress or not. And just, showing up day after day is one of the best things that you can do to be consistent.
Exactly.
You don't need the magical potions and the special powders and all the wonderful tools and all of that. You need the basics. You need to show up every day. You need to put in the work. You need to get a sweat going. You need to get some resistance training going and work muscles and eat the right foods to help them recover through the amino acids, the building blocks of protein, repair damaged muscle tissues, replace electrolytes lost through sweat, getting complex carbohydrates to help refuel and rebuild the body. That's what we need. Right. It's not this special science, except for those at the very, very elite level. And even at that level, I interviewed people for the Plant-Based Athlete. There were many Olympic athletes, numerous Olympic athletes, including Olympic medalists, who were worried about taking supplements because they thought they might fail a drug test, even if it was a simple like hemp protein or protein powder. And so unequivocally that we don't need to do these things. And you look at someone like Rip Esselstyn, who just set a world record in the 200-meter backstroke for his age group last year or 2 years ago, age 59, I believe. And he doesn't use any supplements and hasn't in decades, to the best of my knowledge. I mean, he's very much, he's the son of Dr. Esselstyn. I mean, that's what they do. They do a whole food approach. He's plant strong. And so he's just one other example of achieving high levels of athletic success without having to rely mentally, psychologically on something that may or may not help you all that much, when what really matters is the mind-muscle connection and what you're doing with your athletic training. And I also I even wrote it down, somewhere over here. I think I tossed it to the side, but having a purpose that's bigger than yourself. I'm motivated by the same thing. I recognize that working out is hard, that it sometimes creates pain in the muscles when you're training,
Right.
but I'm doing it because I'm trying to make a better version of me to represent veganism the best that I can, to encourage other people. Like you said, the impact that maybe I had on you or that I had on other people, like that means a lot to me.
Yeah.
And I know it's far reaching, and I know it spares animals from a life of misery and suffering. And that matters to me, and that makes me train and gives me a psychological advantage more than some sort of supplement would. So let's transition to training. There's a few questions about training, but I'd be remiss if I didn't ask about, veganism within the Latin community and some of the places you've traveled all around the world. And I want to hear some about the most vegan friendly cities you've been to and countries, and maybe some of the least vegan friendly cities and countries. I know you spent some time in your life living in the Caribbean, in New York, in Texas. I'd like to hear, I think just on a personal note, I think that's quite interesting, but you also have lots of interest in your topic here. So there's lots of questions coming in. So let's power through some of these, maybe relatively quickly if we can, so we can talk about some of the stuff that you do as an advocate for veganism, which I think is important. Okay, so Steph has a question about if you can talk about resistance training for postmenopausal women who are beginners, and maybe just for anybody who's in a little bit of the older demographic, how important weight training is, men or women, if you could tackle those questions.
Yeah, so it is a good question, because recently my dad was asking me about workout, and I actually built him a home workout. We work with his own weight, so he have like a 15, 20 pounds dumbbells and a kettlebell, and we were able to set up a really nice workout. So I advise you can work out about 35 to 40 minutes. At least 3 days during the week. 3 days during the week, it will be a sweet spot. If you want to up it up a little bit more, depending on your level of intensity. So I don't know if you're just getting started or if you are at an advanced level.
Yeah, beginner.
You're a beginner. Okay. Yeah. So I will suggest you can do a lot of body weights. Start with your body weight, right? Until you get comfortable, learn the movement. So things that you can do, functional movement. Robert preached about this, we talks about this all the times. Workouts that you can do, that you can move, jumping jack, push-ups. You can start with the basic levels. That will be a good things to do. Do things with, if you have a resistant band, you can also use that as well. So 3 days a week, 35 minutes, maybe you can include a little bit of cardio as well. And then of course, find out what is actually the intention of working out, because we can customize that workout based on what your goals are. If you want to lose weight, gain muscle, depending, right? But so this is a broader topic that we can discuss in a whole session. But I would advise using some kettlebells, using dumbbells. You can use body weights just to get started, just so you can get comfortable. You can do squat and then raise your hands up, for example, and that's an easy workout move, but it's such a functional move, and it works out your whole full body. So, and then I can name out a couple of moves just like that you can incorporate. So I hope that helps. I don't know if you want to add to it, Robert. So, or they would like to hear like a workout plan.
I think I think the point is it's okay to do resistance training beyond just cardiovascular training, and resistance weight training is going to be great for building bone density and strength, preventing injuries, building up strength, and helping us build our bodies as we age. And I think that's important. And I think that's good for anybody over 50, 60, 70 to be doing resistance weight training. It's very, very common. I see that at my gym. I hear that when I'm with Larry Krug on the Vegan Cruise, who's in his 70s, and he's a trainer, and he talks about that too, that the power of resistance weight training as we age for bone density, strength, muscle mass, prevention of injury, all of that kind of stuff. So that's great. Really quick questions here. MJ, I don't think it's Michael Jordan, but we'll pretend that MJ's on with us because we're big basketball fans. So we're gonna pretend the GOAT is in the house. Like the greatest of all time. Greatest of all time. MJ wants to know a good snack to fuel a late afternoon workout, and also thanked us for the conversation in this topic and has really enjoyed us. So thank you, Michael Jordan. Roger, what do you got for like a afternoon snack to kind of keep you going for fuel?
They with peanut butter.
Cake with peanut butter. Okay, hey, let's move on from there. Rachel had a question. I think you actually addressed it briefly. She's curious about where you get B12 in a whole food plant-based diet if it doesn't come from supplements. I think you mentioned nutritional yeast, maybe.
Correct.
I know some people talk about different types of seaweed like dulse. And also, I think the answer is probably fortified foods. I mean, there's lots of fortified soy milk, fortified almond milk, that kind of stuff, which might not be 100% whole food. But the point Roger was making, Rachel, was that you don't have to necessarily go take a supplement like a pill or a tablet if you're eating foods that either naturally contain some level of B12 or are already fortified and enriched with it. And that's been my experience too. And blood work revealed I was on the very high end of B12. So I think you were clear that's the clarification there. Roger, let's as we wind down here, let's kind of do some rapid fire questions. I want people to learn more about you too. So what is your favorite form of vegan advocacy?
So right now, Robert, I had two ways. I had two ways that I write to help people. So one is I use the fitness part of it. As you guys can tell, vegan bodybuilder, I go on stage and I perform and I always represent veganism, even though if I do it as it's a solo sport, but I perform it from a high level, right? So that's one of my form of activism and advocacy. So the other way that I like to do it is to spreading the message or communicating. I have a couple of platforms that I open just to simplify that I would like to spread myself and my experience, things that I lived through. And I speak all on facts on my own personal experience, and I use that as a way of help others. And also, if somebody else needs coaching or help in that sense or transitioning, I can help them as well too. I'm always open for that. I certified with eCornell. So thanks to you, I got that as well. So I'm always use those different type of resources so I can have more tools so I can help people in that sense. So any way that I can help, I'm here available for you guys. So either through coaching, either to fitness, or just by consuming my content.
Amazing. And for those who tuned in late, Roger Smith is a vegan athlete, entrepreneur, podcast host, been vegan for more than 20 years, and also does a lot of work in the Latin community. Can you talk about the growth of veganism or lack of growth? I have to admit, I don't know a whole lot about it at the current state. So can you talk about veganism within the Latin community these days?
Yeah, so this whole thing started for me as a curiosity, right? Because I was trying to find out information regarding like who are because here in North America, including Mexico, US, and Canada, we have tons of information, tons of influencers, tons of people that you can listen to and learn from. But then I started noticing there was a lack of content above like Central or South America, or any further that you go, it was a lack of information. And I was wondering why, and I couldn't grasp the reason why. And one of the things is because the information was not basically communicated on their language. Now, like for example, now Robert's book, you can find in the different languages, which is great because now we getting the message in different forms or in different way to express the message in different languages. So I noticed that there was a lack of information, especially on the Spanish, regarding to veganism and the whole thing. So, and I was like, well, you know what? Instead of me complaining about it, let me do something about it. So I decided to say, you know what? I'm gonna create a podcast, and I'm gonna talk about vegan from a Latin perspective. And which is not really that much different, right? It's just basically me saying veganism in Spanish, which is vegano. Vegan is vegano. So just add an L and then that's it. So it was just me talking in Spanish about veganism and all the different things that I went through. So for whoever consumed that content can relate to it. Oh, okay, there's a voice, not only the voice for the voiceless, but it's a voice that speak my language that's talking about the things that I'm interested in knowing. So that's all I wanted to do. And I created this platform. So one of the things that I decided to do is like now, after a couple of years of doing that project, because I'm still doing it, people started reaching out to me and saying, well, you've never been to my country, so you don't know what it is to be vegan here. And I was like, okay, so what do I do about it? Okay, let me do something about it. So I started traveling to some of these countries out of my own pocket. Nobody sponsored me anything, right? So this was my idea. So I went to a couple of these places, and I was actually wanting to live like, okay, let me see how it is to be vegan in Cuba, for example. People talk, oh, it's so difficult to be vegan in Cuba. And then I did that with a couple of other places. And the one thing I found, just to, because I can tell you guys the whole story, but it's gonna take it forever. But the one thing that I find out is like, one is like, if you really want to find vegetables and fruit, any country in the world that you go is gonna have vegetables and fruit. So you're gonna find something to eat. Now, the one big difference that I can tell is the variety. We don't have such variety of food, of product, of brand, but we're talking about processed food brands. So the good thing about some of these places is that you can always go back and eat the basic.
Yeah.
Basic is not gonna kill you. Now, you go to some of these places, they're not gonna have 3 walls in the supermarket full of plant-based products, right? They might not even have a section for plant-based, but you're always gonna find seeds, nuts, vegetable, fruits. I mean, the basic stuff you're gonna find. So you can cook your own meal, you can prep your own food. So that was the thing that was the message that I got out of different places. Now, the other aspect is that by not having the variety of food and or in these places, in these countries, and then there's a lot of politics behind it. It could be because the government doesn't subsidize vegan food and all these different things. It creates a market for local people to create their own product. So now you have locals creating their own brand, creating their own seitan, their own plant-based meats, creating their own plant-based cheese, all these different products. So you have a lot more local creating product. So now you got small entrepreneurs here and there doing different things. So it creates a market and an opportunity. People are monetizing out of creating this food. So I saw that there's a lot of other opportunity. So when you block, you only blindsided and you only see one way. Of course, you're never going to see light, but when you open up your eyes and you can see a lot more things and a lot more opportunity, and that will start happening. So if you're a person that live in a country and say, oh, there's no way you can be vegan in this country, it's because you never even tried it. You never gave it the opportunity. You didn't even research it. Because I've been to some of these places, like I went to Cuba, one of the most difficult countries to find vegan food, and I found vegan food. I found restaurants. I mean, maybe I didn't find my 100% vegan restaurant, but well, there were actually, but there were not many. There were like 2 or 3 maybe out of 15 options. Happy Cow actually has a good opportunity to find places, but I was able to find the basic stuff and some food. So you can find if you really wanted to. So that's one thing that I got out of the whole experiment, Robert.
Yeah, just out of curiosity, I've traveled to a lot of countries myself, although admittedly, many of those countries were back when I worked on cruise ships 20 years ago, and I was just dropping in for the day. And so it was easy to just eat for the day. I wasn't immersed into the culture, into the country, but I've been to a lot of places as well. What would you say is maybe the most vegan friendly city you've ever been to? Let's say outside the United States. And then what would be the least vegan friendly city? This could be cities or countries, but what are like the most vegan friendly place outside of America, and then the least vegan friendly place, which needs support and more work, and maybe we can help, support that growth. Okay.
So I would say from the ones that I visited, Bogota, Colombia, very vegan friendly.
Okay.
Not only from the food standpoint,
capital city, right?
Yeah, exactly. The capital of Colombia, correct. Yes. Not only from the food standpoint, shout out to my Colombian friends, and not only from the food standpoint, but also from the whole animal movement too. So they're pretty strong on that. So I had not been to all South America, so let me clarify that I had not been to the entire South America, so I can. Robert asked me the country that I've been to, so I had not been to other countries in South America, so I can't compare. But the ones that I visited, this one has been the most vegan friendly for me, because there was vegan restaurants all over the place. They have They have several vegan clothing brands made locally. Again, shoes, belt, all the different things. The only problem that they have, and I need to tell you these guys, and I told them, is that you need to make sizes bigger, because here in America, the sizes is like for example, if I'm an extra large here in the US, for them it's like a 3 or 4 sale. So the shirts are really, really small. I don't know, maybe the frame of people on that side of the world is different. But anyway, so so that was the biggest friendly city that I visited. Now, the less vegan friendly, I will have to put also Costa Rica is pretty vegan friendly, and Panama is also being very vegan friendly, but only from like the food standpoint. But Colombia was like more overall. Like you can find from clothing to activism to the lifestyle, correct? Like the vegan lifestyle in general. That place is was the less vegan friendly. That I visited, it could potentially be, I could potentially say Cuba could be probably the most less vegan friendly, just because there wasn't as many variety of restaurants or options, and that's typical. Like, we all know what the situation there, right? So it might be the reason why. But even with that, I had an experience that I went to a hotel, and I asked the chef, like, can you make something vegan? And the chef was like, yeah, sure, I can do that. So she made me a nice plate with rice and lentils and peppers. I was like, it was really good. So you can still get it customized, because they use very natural, because they use squash as a dip. I mean, they don't really have a lot of processed items, because a lot of food, they don't get food from the outside. So they really stick to what they can build with their own hands.
And really quick, there is another question I'm going to get to in a second. You're in Houston, Texas these days, right?
Right. Yes, I'm in Houston.
What's the vegan scene like there? Obviously, you came from, I think, New York before that.
Right.
But I've heard some good things about Houston, and I plan to go later this year. So hopefully see you in a couple months.
Absolutely.
Houston is, they say it's going to pass Chicago, be the 3rd largest city in America soon. I've heard that all year. Population should surpass Chicago soon. So the 3rd largest city, potentially behind New York and Los Angeles in America. What's the vegan scene like in Houston?
It's good. It's good. When I'm in the vegan scene from a food standpoint, yes, we have a lot of variety of restaurants, very diverse. You can find Asian, you can find soul food, you can find just typical American food. Like, you can find anything you want when it comes to the vegan cuisine. So in that sense, we are very advanced. The one thing about Houston is a very spread out city. So you might be on the west side of Houston, and it takes you about 45 minutes to an hour to get to the city. And then that's where probably the majority of the restaurants are concentrated, right? So that's what, like, probably the biggest complaint from people. So they want the options to be built more closer to where the area is, and not always, that's not always going to be the case. So, and but the scene is a very good scene. We have from the whole Texas in general. I have to admit that has pretty. People will be surprised, but you got some really good restaurants. Austin, of course, we all know is the mecca of veganism when it comes to Texas. But then I will put Houston second when it comes down to the cuisine aspect of veganism here in that list. And then probably I will put San Antonio and Dallas and fighting for 3rd place when it comes to food.
Roger, can I add to that? It sounds like, if I'm not mistaken, beyond just the food scene in Houston, you have Dr. Baxter Montgomery there, who's doing some amazing work in the hospital system, as I understand it. I believe Garth Davis moved back there.
Yeah.
Dr. Brooke Goldner and Thomas Tadlock there.
Yeah, they're from here.
Yeah. So you've got, I mean, that's just people off the top of my head. I'm sure there's more. I think, is it Dr. Howard Jacobson? Is he nearby? Maybe not. I thought he was in Houston. Maybe he's not. But you got beyond. The point is, it's beyond the food scene. Houston is growing with the medical professionals. I just named three doctors that are pretty big names off the top of my head that are there. In fact, I saw Dr. Baxter Montgomery a few days ago in Washington, D.C.
Oh yeah.
Learned about some of the stuff he's doing in Houston. So that's fantastic.
Yeah.
I want to get to one last question here from Rachel. So we'll switch gears, just get this last question answered, and then I want to hear, like what you're working on right now and how people can support you, follow you, listen to your podcast, follow you on social media, find out what Roger's up to. So here's one last question before we wrap up today, Roger. And again, I really appreciate your time the last hour and 10 minutes or so. So Rachel's back. She had a question about B12. We got that addressed. She has fibromyalgia and has mostly upper thighs get tired and hurt. And tiredness really hits when she tries to squat in the gym. And she wants to get stronger, especially with her legs. What's the best food to have before a session? And how long before should she eat to give her energy and strength to get through the 45-minute workout? So she's dealing with some pain and soreness and wants to know, and tiredness and what she can eat before workout to kind of power her through.
Wow, that's a good question. Well, first, as far as the pain, I would advise that you check out the doctor, because I can't give you a medical advice from that. So, but when it comes to food prior to working out, like I personally work out with an empty stomach. But if you want to eat a meal before working out, you can just eat a banana some days, something around very light. I won't recommend having a heavy meal and then go work out. And then, so try to have that meal after that. So that will be my advice. And then after you come back from the gym, so I'm assuming that say you work out in the morning, then you can have your breakfast, whatever it is that you eat for breakfast. You can have your oatmeal, you can have your toast or whatever it is that your breakfast looks like. Is you work out at night, same thing. I'll have something light. I will have something light. I'll maybe wait 15 to 30 minutes to wait just for food to kind of settle, and then I go work out. Then work out, and then you have that meal. Hopefully you don't go too late to the gym, that you're eating that really late at night. But at least I would just try to schedule that way. I don't know if you have another piece of advice when it comes to that, Robert.
Well, I would just maybe add, try to consume as many anti-inflammatory foods as possible. I mean, obviously, pro-inflammatory things that lead to soreness and tiredness, and that are ongoing issues for a lot of people. From a very oftentimes a pro-inflammatory diet, or even just a pro-inflammatory condition, like perhaps like fibromyalgia. So I would, turmeric and ginger and leafy greens and foods like that, and maybe even for like the fatigue, maybe even things that are rich in nitric oxide, like beets and leafy green vegetables, which help as a vasodilator to expand blood vessels and increase blood flow. High hydration intake. I'd probably eat high antioxidant content, dark pigment berries, dark pigment sweet potatoes, things like that. So that's all that I would add there. And
one more thing, and I think she mentioned her squat. So from a workout standpoint, look for variation of squat. So what I mean with that is, like, if you don't have to have the heavy weight in your shoulders and try to squat it, you feel that you're having knee problems, maybe you put a chair and then try to sit down and go up and down to that chair. So just try to look for variations of that workout. Sometimes you have machines in the gym that it's a squat machine, right? And then it allows you to kind of alleviate some of that tension. Also, the Smith machine is another way that you can do it. So look for different alternative until you get comfortable enough, or until you get stronger in those joints, or whatever is the recovery processes you need to do prior to do that. Plus, find other workouts that you can do that doesn't require you to, for example, say do a squat, because not necessarily because the person that do squats is the strongest person ever. No, but it's a variety of exercise. So just look for variations of workouts.
I agree, Roger. I don't do squat in the gym. I mean, I haven't squatted in years because I've got the herniated discs in my L5-S1 lower sacrum. So, but my legs still to this day are maybe my best muscle. Amazing. Quads, because I do leg extensions. I can do leg presses because there's no pressure on the lower back because you're locked into a leg press machine. I do hamstring curls lying down or seated or both. I do the little donkey kick machine for glutes. I do the calf raises in different varieties, seated, standing, or even pressing on the leg press machine. I do variations of leg press machine where it hits the quads, hamstrings, and glutes at different angles. And that's all without compromising my spine by doing a squat position. So you're right. There's plenty that you can do beyond squats to build leg strength, endurance, muscle, bone density, all of that. So Roger, we're coming to an end here. This is actually maybe the longest episode I've ever had here on Vegan Conversations with Robert Cheeke. I've thoroughly enjoyed it,
Awesome.
and it's always a pleasure talking to you, Roger. I do hope to see you in a couple months. Can you just maybe finish up by telling us what you're working on now, and how we can find you online, or how we can listen to some of your podcasts and all of that?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Robert. Thank you for the opportunity. Same way with Chef AJ. So right now I'm currently training for a show. So I've been away the last 3 years from the sport of bodybuilder. But when a bodybuilder says it's being off season, it doesn't mean that it's not training. It means that they're not training for a competition, which is a different thing, right? So I've been for the past 3 years. I've been away. I've been doing different things, different projects. So now this year I decided I'm going to compete. I'm going to announce my dates. It's October 7 and October 30. I'm going to do 2 shows. It's first time in my bodybuilder career that I'm going to do back-to-back shows. So I'm going to do a show on October 7 and I'm going to do another show on October the 30th. So I still have plenty of time. So I'm prepping for the show. So you're going to see in my social media, which I'll announce in a little bit, you're going to find posts that are related to some of the workouts, and I give some tips on some of the workouts and what else I'm doing as far as building different part of my body for a competition. Now, I have a couple of the projects coming up. So one is, I don't want to give out too much, but I'm going to say that I'm working on a project here in Houston where I'm building and when I'm going to be able to create an entertainment center, but it's going to be fully plant-based. So that's all I'm going to say. And it's going to be catered to anyone, everyone. But I want to be able to cater to or get to a different demography as well, to a different type of people also that is a completely different world. And then also promote veganism and plant-based from that perspective by giving them something that they can feel more entitled, that they can feel more happy, and they can feel more like their universe. And in the same way, I'm kind of putting veganism or putting plant-based into the equation by having vegan options, right? So it's going to be a whole food plant-based entertainment center. So I'm excited about that project, and it's going to be here in Houston. And the rest is just, if you're just going to follow me or listen to my podcast, my handle is Vegan Roger. As simple as that. It's at Vegan Roger in Instagram, and then I have a link tree there, and then you can find all the links for my podcast, and I'm on Spotify, I'm on YouTube as well, and I post episodes for my podcast in my YouTube channel as well. And it's every other week I post either an English episode or a Spanish episode, and most of the time, it's not all the times. There are different topics. I just talk about different things that comes to my mind. And in episode number 6 and 7 is actually Robert, and I'm hoping I can bring Chef AJ in one of my upcoming episodes. But yeah, episode 6 and 7 of the podcast, I'm already in episode 153. Is Robert? It's Robert. I interviewed Robert, and then you guys can hear what he said prior to even launching his book, because it was during that time.
Well, thank you, Roger. It has been an absolute pleasure. I could tell from the comments, people really enjoyed it. I appreciate you sharing your experience as a longtime vegan. It's just so inspiring to see someone who's been vegan for decades and maintains the amount of muscle mass that you have, and also has the compassion.
Yeah.
That's what I love about you, man. I appreciate that you lead with your heart. You're a compassionate guy. You've always been incredibly friendly and outgoing every time that we've crossed paths. And I thank you for joining me today on Chef AJ's channel for Vegan Conversations with Robert Cheeke. It's been a real pleasure.
Anytime, guys. I love you guys, and I appreciate you guys for having me.
Thank you so much. This was a wonderful interview. It was so great to get to know you a little bit better, Roger, and I'd love to be on your platform anytime and have you on mine as well. And Robert, do you know who you're interviewing next month? And I wanted to tell you, Dr. Howard Jacobson, I believe, is North Carolina.
I thought about that as I was saying it. And I remembered it was like a random conversation. He was driving through Houston or something, and when he reached out to me. So I realized that as I said it. But thank you for the fact check correction. And Chef AJ, I don't know exactly who is next month. It's going to be a mystery, but I will have that determined.
Well, is there somebody on your bucket list? Because we can maybe ask them.
Well, I've got a number of people on the bucket list, so we'll just leave it open-ended. I've been traveling for weeks. I just got back. I was actually just outside the White House 2 days ago when the South Korean president was coming through. It was very wild. Lots of Secret Service and police and all that. I was in DC. Just got back, and then I'm on a plane tomorrow to Portland, Oregon, to do a book signing at Next Level Burger in Portland at the West Burnside location. So that's on Saturday. So yeah, I'm on the go, but don't you worry. There's going to be.
I don't know how you do it, Robert.
Yes,
You're like the hardest working person in the plant-based world.
Right.
Thank you so much. Absolutely. And thanks all of you for watching this episode of Chef AJ Live. Please come back in about an hour when we have a Q&A with Dr.